Well, this is getting off the subject a little bit, but let's hit this because I think it's important for our collies, for all dog breeders now. You were on the ground floor of the formation of Responsible Dog Breeders of Oregon.
Well,
And can you share that story?
yes. Back in the early 90s, a group of animal rights people got passed in San Mateo, California, which was a city, a very restrictive breeding ordinance. That was in a city. Then they came to Washington, and they came to Seattle. That was King County. And they got the same thing passed there. Well, the word would hit Oregon that they were coming. I got a phone call from a friend, and actually he was in another breed, and he was kind of looked down on because he wholesaled dogs. We always sent him to the same place, but he did, and so people kind of, but he called me and he said, there's this law, and he said it's going to affect everybody. So I really appreciated the call. And so the word had gotten around. So up in Portland, Patty Strand and a group, I'm not sure she was the first one on that part of it, but anyway, she was the one that got to be the moderator at the meeting, because she and her husband had real estate licenses, and they also had a legal kennel license, so they could speak up. And they also, their time was flexible because they could control, they weren't working shop hours. So they called a meeting of all the dog clubs in Oregon were supposed to send a representative to this meeting. And so I went to the board of directors. This is telling tales out of school. I went to the board of directors of our local kennel club, and I told them about this meeting and what was happening. And they said, oh, well, they said, we only raise a litter every few years when we want something to show. It's not going to affect us. And I couldn't believe it, how they acted. So
was it limiting the number of litters?
Oh, yeah. Well, it was more than that. I mean, it was very restrictive. And I don't have it in front of me now. And in fact, anyway, yes, anybody that wants to look at the San Mateo law, they can find out what it was. Anyway, it was very restrictive. And of course, we already had enough restrictions with zoning and whatnot and another. So anyway, they asked people to come up. So a friend and I went, and we formed Responsible Dog Breeders of Oregon, and because the legislation came to Oregon. And so we made numerous trips to Salem, went to all the meetings, and at that time kept that law from passing. And from that, the Responsible Dog Breeders and all the dog people really pitched in. Went on for several years, and then it turned into Responsible to National NAIA, and had been president of Responsible Dog Breeders, and she formed NAIA, which is still going, which is still in effect. But we got together, and also in our local area, we were battling restrictions, and my husband and I, for 5 years, went to every single county commissioner's meeting every week.
Wow.
For
5 years?
Yes, it was either 4 or 5 years, and because that way we got on first name basis with the county commissioners, and we were monitoring what was going on. That's why I was there.
That's a wonderful story, and when you think of people like Lorraine, that gives us the ability to have this hobby today.
Well, I'll tell you,
that's so important.
I said, and it's coming true. I said, I'm glad I did what I did when I did it. It isn't going to be the same. It definitely isn't. Look, you can tell it isn't. I mean, a dog breeder now is considered low. I mean, it's all rescue and mutts and whatnot, and so you're looked down on.
Designer breeds.
Oh, designer breeds, yes, yeah. But you see, before we had, of course, the part of that San Mateo law was zoning and stuff, but there had been zoning. out in the West Coast, it was in California mostly where it started. You used to get a Collie cues and Shetland sheep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, all right. There was always stuff in there.
Ken Martin.
Yeah, Ken Martin about it. And that's where it started first. And of course, almost all the dog breeders down there were under the radar. I mean, they all had more dogs than what they were supposed to have. And one lady said she didn't want to teach her kids to lie. So when people say, how many dogs? Oh, by the way, how many dogs does your mother have? Instead of the child would say, mother likes to keep. And if it was 3 dogs, what she likes to keep and what she kept might be 2 different things. But by saying that, you know, that's what she taught her children to say.
That's
She didn't
wonderful.
want them to lie.
That's
Mother likes to
wonderful.
keep 3 dogs.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And meanwhile, mother considering more than 3 dogs. But anyway, so